Welcome to the Balanced Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Matt Southam. Here, we delve into candid conversations with entrepreneurs, exploring both their business journey and their secrets to maintaining mental well-being. As we navigate the balance of ambition and inner peace, I hope you find insights, inspiration, and invaluable takeaways in every episode. Thank you for joining us. Neil, welcome to the show today. You've slightly positioned yourself as a disruptor within the healthcare industry. So do you want to tell me what it is you do and maybe why that statement is relevant?
Well, good morning, Matt. Thank you very much for inviting me onto the podcast. Yes, we are a disruptor. My background, well, I was in the city for a number of years. I'm sure we'll come on to that. But coming out of COVID, we've pivoted our business to supply same-day medical letters, relieving the burden on the NHS.
And how's that come about then? Talk me through that journey.
So my journey previously, obviously, as I said, I was 23 years in the city, having worked for some of the big investment banks, and I got made redundant in 2019, thinking, okay, now what do I want to do? I made a conscious decision. I don't want to stay in it. I do not want to go back to an industry which I loved, but I thought I want to do something very different. So with the blessing of my wife, I had some time off to find the route that I wanted to go down. And I looked at a few other things for about 4 or 5 months to actually say, I don't want to go into these particular industries, but I do want to turn left at the lights. And I reached out to my now partner, Dr. Kenny Livingston, at the very beginning of COVID. And I said, I've got some time on my hands. Perhaps I can help you with your business. I have no medical background. And he said Zoomdoc started as a telemedicine provider, so it was well ahead of the curve. So at the beginning of COVID, I reached out to him on LinkedIn on the 13th of March. So it's always about timing. Yeah. And I said, I've got some time on my hands. Perhaps I can help you. And we had started a conversation, and cut a long story short, we then decided perhaps we can add a COVID testing business to the platform. And we literally, as all startups, we put out an email to existing patients, and within 24 hours, we had 600 people that wanted to buy a product. So we said, okay, let's try and figure this one out. And it was before the lateral flow or the PCR test. It was the first antibody. And then when we were able to get the assay from Roche via one of the laboratories that we use in the UK, in London, we went back to those original investors over the weekend, and 125 people were willing to pay for it. And on the Sunday, we started at the top of the list, started at the bottom. We had a website up and running within 72 hours. We sold 600 products within a week. And then Boris Johnson said, game over. You can't test capillary from from home. And then we started to think. We brought in phlebotomists, so we took those into different corporates. And over the period of COVID, we tested over 100,000 people to make sure that we could deliver what they were doing, and to ensure that whatever we did, we're going to be trusted. Because I've always thought about the long game. There's no shortcuts to what we do. And I said to Kenny at the time, if we can build a business that is trusted coming out of COVID, then we can pivot to decide what we want to do. We obviously have a telemedicine business. We have doctors that work in corporate clinics that we have as well. And it was to make sure that we had a trajectory coming out of COVID. That we took on 400 companies during COVID. And therefore competition was a wonderful thing. You know, there are many anecdotes, and I've met some most amazing people whilst we were testing for COVID. But at one stage, as we were working out from my living room, I had the #1 rating on Uber. I never left the house. I had Ubers crisscrossing London for tests all day, every day. But, you know, my kids thought I was a superstar, and police thought I was a drugs dealer. But either which way, we had a service, and we worked 24/7, to make sure that people wanted to test. And then at the end of COVID, if I'm sure you remember when you had to do those testing for days 2, 5, and 8 to be released, etc., we had our own proprietary platform in order to do that. And then when COVID was finally over in February of 22, we said, what can we do with that? And we've used the platform to simplify getting same-day medical letters that are considered non-urgent within the NHS. And over the period of the last 15 to 16 months, we've done something like 40,000 letters, saving the NHS in excess of nearly 10,000 hours.
Wow. I mean, there's a couple of bits in there that caught my. I love the idea that you were sending all these tests using Uber, because I see Uber as a disruptor within their industries. It was almost like a disruptor using a disruptor and just making something work.
It was when I'd read a number of books whilst I was out, and one of them is a book written by the guy who invented Waze, Fall in Love with the Problem. And how do you improve the journey? How do you make sure that every step Matt, there was no playbook for this. There was no playbook. How do we ensure that whatever we are doing is better than the competition?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that whatever we are doing will be remembered for being better? How do we improve? How do we improve on a daily basis? Whether it be the messaging, the first sticker, the second iteration of the sticker, bearing in mind people coming backwards and forwards. And we had a chance to really build something down the line. So we talk about Uber, and there was one case specifically where, people were ringing us from all over the world. We've got someone in London that needs a test, and cut a long story short, your shipping address and delivery address was different. We'd phone up to make sure someone was in order to get the test. We can't put the test through the door. And I remember sitting there on a Wednesday night, this gentleman called me from Philadelphia. Can you test our client in London? Yeah, we can do it, but how have you found us? So something is working in the background.
Yeah.
This lady happened to be in her early 90s. She's flown over to London to see a family friend. But I wasn't going to send an Uber driver to deliver a test on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock to a lady in London. So I turned around to my wife and said, I'm out of here right now. And I drove across London to deliver the test to make sure that it got there. You're building something, and I think it's very different from the corporate world. This suddenly becomes personal. Yeah. This is, how do we differentiate? Are we going to go that extra mile as we build an amazing team, as we had whilst we were building the COVID business, we had a lot of youngsters locally finish their GCSEs and A-levels that would pack for us every day, right? Is every bit in that box that needs to go out. Yeah. Making sure that execution and constant execution is really the key to build.
Consistency in that is just essential.
It's essential. And therefore we were learning. I'm north of 50 now. I get to learn every day. So the journey of the last 4 years has been amazing, as opposed to, and I say this with respect to my previous industry, where I think it was like on easy street for a number of years. You're pushing yourself, you're working hard. I got up every day at 4:45 for somebody else. I now don't go to bed till 4:45 for my own business, but we're trying to figure out what we do to constantly be better, to constantly improve, to constantly try to make a difference.
Yeah, I certainly agree, especially in the startup world. It is a journey, and it is about, what can I do better today? That's often the question you need to ask yourself, isn't it? What can we do that's going to deliver a better outcome for someone and enable us to be remembered? I love some of those little touch points during customer journeys that almost don't seem relevant, but they're those little personal touches that means you're remembered.
I think, when you say about those little bits, there's so many stories that made us want to improve. Understanding that the messaging wasn't quite right. Okay, we're small, we're nimble, we can change this very quickly.
Yeah.
We don't cut corners, and that's always been my mantra, that as long as you think of the long term, you're not chasing short-term capital, short-term money, you'll actually be able to position yourself because you're trusted. And I look back now, and since we launched on Trustpilot, we've got nearly over 2,700 people that tell us we've got a 4.8 rating. Okay, I used to take it personally when there was a negative review. What have we done wrong?
Yeah.
How can we make sure that it's not? And when you pick up the phone, I'm old school. I used to broke for 20 odd years. If you pick up the phone and find out the question as opposed to hiding behind an email, you figure out what's wrong. You figure out, okay, this little bit can be improved today. And if we can improve it for this one person, we're able to scale to help everyone because other people have a similar problem.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, finding out from your customers, I always see that negative reviews are actually just a great opportunity to be able to improve your product.
It's You learn more from where it's falling as opposed to we think everything is okay. And
Yeah.
I take it upon myself to answer every single one. So understand, have we got it right? Have we not? What resonates with other people? What bits need to be improved? What other certificates can we do in order to take this to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think I've seen quite a bit on customer surveys and talking to people, and rather than just saying, tell us about the experience, you generally get a bit of feedback, and especially the British, we're quite polite. You go and get your hair cut, and they show you what's that like. I mean, maybe not for me and you, but you're just like, yeah, oh yeah, brilliant. And the same, often you go out for a meal and you're eating your food, they come over, how's the food? And you're like, oh yeah, that's great. Actually, the questions we should be asking is, how could we improve it? Yeah, what's one thing we could do better?
It's interesting because I met someone only last week that's in the restaurant business. And I said how, the food is obviously of the highest standard. The wine list is of the highest standard. It's all about that experience. I know from our numbers, we have a retention rate of something like about 27%. So once you've used our service, you're willing to tell somebody else.
Yeah.
And to be able to show the website improves, the SEO improves, the marketing, you're getting the right marketing mix. Each one of those situations tells you that you're improving. You're not stagnant. You are trying to figure out the next bit that solves the problem.
Yeah.
And we don't have, and also the other things from startups, you don't have all the answers. You do not have them all. It's simple. I meet different mentors. I meet different amazing people that say, have you thought about this? And being able to have incoming inquiries, can you help us with this? Really, okay, we're onto something. And the team also get to do that as well. It's not just me and Kenny. The rest of the team are part, and the doctors that verify all of the certificates, they're all part and parcel of the journey and what we're on. Does it resonate with you? Do you think the same way? And it's a different thought process.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, startups often discover that the problem they thought they were solving, actually, it suddenly pivots because suddenly other people, and I can't think of any classic examples, but there are examples of people taking a product that's made for another industry and almost using it to solve a problem. And suddenly the company are like, oh, hang on, we're selling lots of these to this sort of industry. And you can pivot and learn very quickly as a startup.
I think for a startup, it's also the partner that you have. Right, you both have different skill sets. So Kenny's a doctor, he's very technically gifted, he's product driven, and figuring out how we can, if the idea is to solve the burden on the NHS, how do we make the most of that? So we've been very fortunate with what we've done. We've been able to collaborate with some of the largest online pharmacies and physical and online pharmacies to ensure that customers that come to them can use our product as another service whilst relieving the burden on the NHS. So we're excited by what lies ahead. We're excited by Pharmacy First. How can we as a company make the most more for pharmacies, because they're integral to, physical pharmacies are very integral. There's lots of people that use online pharmacies. It's another service where we are trying to position ourselves to be number one. What's very interesting is not only have we created a market, we're a price setter within the market, we're flexible around what we're doing. There's a huge growth in what we are doing and how we're able to relieve the burden. That's what drives us.
Yeah. And where do you see the sort of future of healthcare going then? Because obviously you're in there to be able to provide a service which the NHS is under pressure. I think everyone is aware of that. So actually you're able to reduce some of that in certain areas and allow them to concentrate on some other critical elements. Can you see that's how as such the private sector can play a real part in helping the NHS?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. We are big backers, and all of our doctors work part-time in the NHS. That's a prerequisite for what we do. Because it is so stretched, there has to be room for private providers to offer a reasonable service at a reasonable price, or a reasonable price with top quality service.
Yeah.
Lots of businesses that are doing other parts of healthcare, because they have the niche, they have the expertise. If you own a laboratory, yes, you can do testing, you can do other things. NHS, as we know, and unfortunately is really stretched. How do you relieve the burden on the doctors? It's not right that, junior doctors are on strike, but I understand why they're not being remunerated. So we, in our simplistic form, have found a way that we can relieve the burden, and that is scalable. And it's not just here, because a number of our products you can use globally. So we're reaching out. A doctor shouldn't have to sign you off because your holiday's been cancelled. A doctor shouldn't sign you off because your child's got chicken pox and now needs to, you have a letter so you can say that you're fit to fly. We've got a number of elderly patients within the UK that need disability access. They can't go and get it. Can we provide a certificate that you can then send to the local authority? Are we finding a solution to parts of the roadway that are blocked? If you were to phone up and if you're able to get a doctor and get an appointment, it may be in 2 days' time, but you may need that certificate there and then. We've had people from the airport and say, my certificate's not being accepted. Can you help us? Right? Have you got the medical evidence? Will our doctors validate it? And we reject about 8% a month where we don't have the right evidence. Our doctors are not incentivized to validate our certificate. Our doctors are incentivized to make sure that the service that we're offering is of the highest standard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess actually, this can take a lot of pressure and stress away from individuals who are struggling to get hold of their NHS doctor. So actually, as well as supporting the NHS, actually people's, I guess, general well-being. And I know how, the stress of trying to get an appointment and things like that, build up on you. So actually, you're able to help individuals by, reducing that stress level.
Look, as I said, we've grown the offering to 28 different certificates right now. So travel, university related certificates, people that are looking to emigrate to France or to emigrate anywhere where you need a letter signed by a doctor that it says that they are of good health. So they have to provide a certain amount of evidence. They have to upload their summary care record. If you're pregnant, you have to upload your maternity notes to make sure that it's there. But obviously no one has access to anyone's private medical, and I don't want that to be a route, because then that changes where it is. I don't want it to be a two-pronged attack on where healthcare can be delivered, those that can and those that can't. But some of these products are vital right now. They will certainly relieve that burden. They will certainly understand that the time, when I speak to any of our doctors that work within the NHS, you're seeing 40 patients a day. Up to 40 patients, you're not doing that. And therefore, is there a way that via our platform that we can actually relieve that burden and continue to say, okay, the doctor, someone that needs cancer treatment really needs to see a doctor. An appointment is normally 10 to 15 minutes. Are you solving that problem? Or am I as a doctor going to have to tick a box to fill in a piece of paper because someone's off work, sick from work, someone needs to go back to work, all of these things where we think actually we can make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess, you were talking about the COVID time and the pandemic, and obviously you were able to, solve some problems during that. And then actually you've pivoted to, be able to continue when we're not in a pandemic and actually provide a great service. So how have you found that journey? Has it constantly been, okay, what can we do next? How can we solve another problem?
I'm going to give the benefit to Kenny on this one. He's the strategic thinker as to, okay, this is what we can do. It's because we set up that platform. What certificates can we do? We're beneficiary of people that need to go and work in Greece for the holiday season over 90 days. It's an adaptation of or iteration of another certificate that we do. Realizing that when people come to us with an inquiry, I never understood or actually knew there are people looking for an emotional support animal. Like, they need it, right? Something from my background I would never know. We have one inquiry. Do we have the right questions in place on a certificate with the right medical evidence that we can do to solve a problem that someone needs? It's not within my wagon wheel of what we could do. If we're answering that question and knowing that there's potentially hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people out there, then yes, we can. We don't put our price points up. We are not solely driven to bring in the revenue day in, day out, but are we solving that problem that we can scan? And, the number of people where certificates are required, varies. And there's potentially 6 to 8 million a year that need to be written. So that's what we're trying to establish ourselves. And for me, you talk about COVID, it was, where is the competition? Where is the competition? The world is a big enough place. If it's built, it's doctor driven. People talk about when you implement AI into the business, and there are things that we obviously implement within customer service, it's AI driven. But for validation, side by a GMC registered doctor, there may be a small premium, which is fine, but wherever the certificate will be presented, airline, university, work, it is done in the most ethical way that the doctor has signed it. Rest assured, there shouldn't be any comeback. Now, there sometimes is comeback. The certificate hasn't been accepted. Tell us why it hasn't been accepted. Is there something that within that process needs to be smoothed out even further? The recipient needs to understand. Sometimes it's box ticking, but box ticking, there is a price. They're constantly driven to reiterate and iterate to get that formula, and then to get that marketing formula. I'm not a marketeer. Kenny's not a marketeer. So you spend money on SEA, you spend money on PPC, you spend money on creative. We need pharmacy partners to be able to sell their products or sell our product to the customer. How do we figure out that marketing? It's like Kenny and I joke, we've got this amazing ingredients. The cake sometimes has a soggy bottom, right? How do you convert? And once you've converted, we know that they will come back. We know because, again, of the trust pilot, of the partners that have reached out to us, the partners that want to come on board to say, okay, Zoomdoc are very trusted by what they do. And Kenny and I are older for entrepreneurs who see a lot of startups where I will never understand what they do for a younger generation, but we're seasoned professionals that work hard. The team work hard. The team is amazing. For us, the challenge is, how do we build this A-class team? That has a share, has a stake, that has a voice. When I worked in an investment bank, I was a number, and I realized I was a number for many years, but golden handcuffs kept you doing what you did. I wish I would have been away. I wish I would have been, my wife would say this, I wish I would have been let go a bit earlier to figure it out. But sometimes the pathway just clears, that fog lifts to say, okay, what is that focus? Where's that North Star? What do we want to really achieve? Individually, collectively, to establish ourselves as I think we're doing a good job so far.
Yeah, I mean, I was really sort of inspired by that, those few lines you said there. And it is sometimes just discovering, what is it I want to do? Where do I go? And sometimes, like you say, just working in a job, even if it's stable and things like that, actually you realize, no, I want to do something bigger. I want to make more of an impact. And you've clearly been on that journey.
The impact is, and I think part of why I think I'm so driven and really focused now, is my children. I've got 3 young kids, 15 down to 10, they can actually see that, you know what, you can reinvent yourself at some point. You can go out of your comfort zone. As I said, the learning bit is I'm learning every day, or continue to learn, because I'm out of my comfort zone. For my kids to see, and I'm blessed that my wife works, and it enabled me not to just have to take a job, right? And I'm truly blessed in that respect, and therefore it's one of my short-term goals. But for my kids to see that, you know what, it's all about hard work. There are no freebies, there's no handouts. Right. It's sitting around the table now and saying, how was your day, when they're asking me how my day was. You know, an investment bank made some, lost some, like it doesn't see it, right? Yeah. Knowing that people are like yourself, you're reaching out to figure out, okay, what are these guys doing? It's that inquisitive nature, it's that curiosity that drives you to say, okay, and to push yourself. I'm 50, we're all going to have to work for that much longer anyway.
Yeah, I saw something today about that. They reckon the retirement age is going to have to go up. It was, early 70s now, I think, is the proposed.
If it is, at least I've given myself another opportunity to do the next 20 years within a sector which is sexy. Yeah, a sector that needs as much help as possible, in a sector that the playbook needs to be shaken up. You know, and it doesn't make a difference. I'm not political on any of this. Whoever the governments are in the future, they're going to need companies that make a difference, that have a proven track record, that haven't been given a handout. No, one of them, our bugbears during COVID was, there was a company very similar to ours, and they weren't doing what we were doing. They were not doing, and the name was very similar to ours. Like, we're having to tick boxes to make sure that we are who we are, and try to go to government to shut these guys down because they're not, it's damaging our reputation. And we didn't get handouts. And we were very honest. And it's the hours that we put in as a small team where we've got to, 4 years down the line, granted Zoomdoc started previous, I couldn't have done this, as an individual want to come into healthcare with GMC, CQC registered to the highest level. Our doctors are the highest level. The what we are building is more that establishes Zoomdoc as a go-to person for health. And what can we do in the future? So listen, if the certificates do really well with the in-house, with the doctors, we put corporate clinics out there. We do some capillary testing. What bits will people reach out to us, because either the service is really good, can we do something else? Is this the only bit where we're going to be? I'd love it to be. I think it's an amazing, amazing business with areas that we can actually go into down the line, because someone said to us, you're trusted. It's all about trust.
Yeah. Building up that brand trust is essential. Yeah.
And I look back over the years, having worked in the city, where decisions by listed companies have been, really, you've gone and done that? You've cut a corner just to beat the next quarter's revenue as to where it is? When a sector is under so much pressure, where the good actors can differentiate themselves from the bad actors. I wish the phone would ring for other people to say to Zoomdoc in a year or 2 years' time, can you actually offer this service? We know it's scalable. You have the doctors, you have the registration, you have all the documentation, Cyber Essentials, ISO 2000, 27001, all DTAC, DPIA, we've got all of those.
Yeah.
Right. That, and that is, when it was COVID, it was just a question of price, even though we had doctors and we had CQC registration. Even more so now, how do we establish Zoomdoc as, like, I want to look back in 20 years if I'm going to have to work till 70 and say, hey, you know what, you did make a difference.
Yeah.
What drives me individually, I think drives Kenny, is we've saved the NHS 10,000 hours. We want to get to 25,000 hours. We want to get to 50,000 hours. We want to get to 100,000 hours. Because if you get into those milestones, you're being remunerated for it.
Yeah.
Partners are coming on. These guys are the go-to guys for what the services that they have always provided.
Yeah, there's definitely that thing with most brands. If you can build up the trust and people believe in what you do, it enables you to pivot much more easily into other areas because you've already built up that brand. You know, the belief that people know what the expectation is. They know what they're going to get. So yeah, that's an absolute key one to get that
But
right.
but also on the flip side, it's okay for us to say no, we don't want to do this.
Yeah,
We don't have that expertise. Someone else will do a better job than what we're doing, right? And I
yeah,
think if you try to be everything to everyone, you won't succeed.
no,
If you say this is the focus, this is the pivot, this is where the concentration is, this becomes our cash cow. Enables us to get to those hours. You know, Matt, I promise you, when we get to those benchmarks, we'll meet for a drink, and I will tell you about how we got to those and what we did in order to get there, how the team has grown with it. Then that's amazing. When we get to if someone comes to us to ask, can we do this? Respectfully, the answer is no. And we will never corners.
That's always key as well, isn't it? You know, saying no to something that doesn't fit exactly what you're doing, because again, it goes back to the brand. If you don't deliver it well, actually that dilutes the brand which you've built up from delivering something really, really well.
But as we build up the team, when we're in the process of hiring people as well, when we build up that team that have different expertise and have different things, we want them to come to us. Have you thought about this? Because of where they've worked or what they have done within healthcare, we think this would be a really viable option. You know, we can actually solve this problem. Yes, you need to do a bit more. There's things that are going to take you out of your comfort zone. But if you find the right solution, and the first iteration is never the right solution. It establishes where it is. It's the next bit. Have we listened? Have we made it smoother? Have we made it faster? And speed isn't always the case, but have we ensured that the customer is accepting of why we've said no? Or we assured that the customer is accepting that these guys are actually setting the tone for where private solutions within the healthcare can work? You know, I have to pinch myself that every day, anyone within the country, potentially in the world, could buy one of our products. Right? Just think about that. Every day, someone around the world could come to us for a chickenpox recovery letter. Someone could come to us for a COVID verification letter. So how do we ensure that that goes to a scale that beyond our wildest expectations?
You said about a little bit of a pinch point there. Tell me about some other. So where across the journey did you suddenly, look at what you were doing and go, okay, wow, this is really making a massive impact?
Okay, there is one story I will never forget. I will never forget this, and having been with a non-medical background, it was during COVID. And as I said, we was initially working out of my house. My wife should say, I wish they would move that a lot sooner, but it's like a startup. And so I would work, Kenny and I would work, we'd have the team packing, and suddenly I go back into the dining room and I see there's an order. Can someone call me? This is a Thursday night. And I recognized the lady from the city. I recognized her name. Okay. So I call her and she goes, what are you doing? I thought you were in the city. No, we provide a COVID business. And this lady said to me, I need some help. Okay, what is it? She said, my father's got cancer. He's got a high fever. Okay, he's got a high fever. And he is supposed to have an operation on the Monday. But if he's got COVID, they won't allow him to go in. If it's not COVID, and they can adjust the drugs and can do it. And again, it's one of these things. I said to my wife, I'm leaving right now. And it was like 4 miles away from me. And I didn't. And I used to go to the laboratories that we were using in London if we weren't busy on a daily basis, just to see what the turnaround time was.
Yeah.
Of tests. And at the time, I think the turnaround was like 17 hours. And I've never used a bullet without actually, do I really need to use it? Not someone coming back from holiday. We spoil a number of people going on holiday. Like, you've got positive, not going. You're not going, okay?
No.
And so I went to meet the brother at the father's house. I gave him the test. I took it down to the laboratory. Now it's about 10 o'clock at night. And I said, knocked on the door. I said, this is for a cancer patient. Okay, I need a result like yesterday. And I waited up to 1:30 in the morning and the result came back. The gentleman lived for another 19 months thereafter. And from that moment on, I knew that if you offer service, if you're willing to go that extra mile, if you're going to instill that in your team, there's a way that you can disrupt. There is a genuine way that you can disrupt. And again, I don't want to be in those positions on a daily basis, and I can't run around, and we can't do that. We're looking to scale the business now. But that was the light bulb moment to me that said, okay, you've made the right decision to move from the city, and you want it more personally. You want to be able to ensure that you're answering the question of why us?
Yeah.
How can we do that? And that was the first moment. And then it's like everyone that comes back with a negative response. What have we done wrong? And the negative responses of 2,700 is, less than about 100 that are saying that you got things wrong. Where have we got it wrong? It's driven to just improve, to learn, to be curious, to set ourselves out from the competition, to say that we are trusted by what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as business owners, doesn't matter where you are in your journey, you've got to, be a sponge every single day and learn. And actually, one of the beauties I get from this podcast, I think, lots of people, it gets shared out and it's around for anyone to listen to. But actually for me on a personal level, I learn something every single episode from someone else. And that's just an absolute blessing for me, because it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, you can always learn something new.
And on that, it's about the network that you suddenly become involved with, right? So networking is key. You don't do everything from your office, you can't. But when you know that you're trusted and people want to spend time with you and they want to, I'm blown away by some of the people that have joined us, or in terms of want to partner with us or understand what we're doing. To understand that these guys really want to grow. As I said, I'm over 50 now. I got enjoyment. I get up every day thinking, you know what, I'm actually lucky.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. I'm doing something that I hope comes across as I'm passionate about what we're doing. It's the team. It's when an opportunity presents itself, okay, can we actually not take advantage of it in that respect? But can we find Can we find that solution that says, okay, these guys do it? And the questions that our doctors ask us, the questions that the customer care team asks us, that bit that when we're sitting around before we have the marketing team, everyone has their say. Does it work? Now, sometimes we don't get it right. And how do we get that formula from a marketing perspective that brings the best out in our partners? That our partners trust us? Because for me, I was always a relationship guy. I used to speak to 30 clients every day, 100 clients a week. But they came back, as one of my old colleagues says, we were the best concierges in the world. Our traders hated us every day. Our customers hated us, but they kept on coming back because we were like Ronsel. It did what it said on the tin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And figure out, okay, needs to be a bit tweaked here, needs to be a bit tweaked there, but we're onto something. And if we weren't onto something, and if I didn't believe that we could scale this, then I would look at something else. But I just look at it, we built foundations, and now we've got the structure to the first floor. Okay. Are we going to be able to build a skyscraper that's 120 floors? No, it's a different skill set, it's a different mentality, it's a different reporting. But generally, I believe over the next 2 to 3 years, if we can get to 2 to 4% market share, have a real business, maybe then we decided that we want to add other things to it, or we become bigger by it. I think when you speak to entrepreneurs or people that run their own businesses, it's about a succession as well. how do you make sure that the right people are coming on at the next generation to help you take it to the next bit?
Yeah.
Our products range from a 2-year-old with chickenpox to a lady traveling with medication at 90. So how do you figure that funnel out? How do you make sure it's there? How do you get people to come to you to say, these guys not only do it, but I've come to them for something else, and maybe they're able to help us. And I listened to a number of your podcasts before doing this, just to figure out what other people are saying. There's a consistency of execution. There's no arrogance in it. There is no arrogance in this day that says we're better. We want to be better. We want to have a smooth and a simpler solution. But we're grounded. Our feet are on the ground right now. I think once you get to that 3rd, 4th floor, you think, okay, well, look what we've done. You start to roll the dice in something else. Focus.
And you're enjoying the journey as well. I think within business, having the goals are great, and I believe in setting goals and having milestones, things like that. But the one issue I sometimes have is, well, once you reach that goal, well, you just set another one. So you've got to enjoy the journey. Otherwise, getting to that goal is almost pointless because the goals just keep changing.
I think the goals, and it's interesting, I think one of the guys, I can't remember his name from the previous podcast, setting goals is important. You've got to set your own short-term goals. You've got to set goals, KPIs that you're accountable for. But the goals that you set have to not be driven by money. Right? Especially in healthcare. You're dealing with people's information. You're making sure that you're dealing with it. And investors actually are on board with that. Although you obviously want to make money, you want to make a return, you need to make a return.
You need to be sustainable,
Sustainable. You need to make sure. So for the goals for me are, okay, that we're doing well enough over the next year that my wife can give up a day working or 2 days working. Then my goal is achieved. That we're able to bring on extra people to help us with the business. The partnerships really kick in, that each partner is generating 500 to 1,000 certificates a month via our platform. 10 partners, 20 partners, you've got a mad business. Then I'm actually working even harder. How many more doctors do we need? And also, at this level, when we're turning over 2,000 certificates a month, we can do it. What bits of technology need to come in? Where do we need to have that dedicated resource? So that journey is, yes, what we thought we've done up until now is okay. We don't actually celebrate the milestones enough because we're just constantly, I want more, but in a good way. It's how do we say to ourselves that we've solved this bit, more people are able to benefit by what we're doing.
Yeah, having those goals. I mean, you said about your wife being able to reduce working hours, and I think having goals like that, money is the enabler. If your goal is just the money, well, that's it. Yes, you need the money to enable that, but you've got to have an actual reason why you want that money.
Yeah, and I think you look at other people; they go on multiple holidays. For me, it's the lesson to our children over the last 4 years. Coming out of a pandemic and saying, okay, you were able to reinvent yourself. You're able to be passionate about what you are. You're happier.
Yeah.
I have breakfast with my kids now that I didn't when I used to leave at 4:45 for somebody else. Yes, the money was a lot better. I sit down with them and have dinner. My oldest son will say, there were times during your working environment that you were out 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to do things, to be able to take the kids and do things, spend time with them, pick them up from school, drop them off. Like the previous life was driven by money.
Yeah.
It was driven by money. Now it's driven by purpose.
Yes. So Gunn, then let me ask you, what is success to you?
Success is that we have listened and been able to take us to the next level. We just completed a round of fundraising the latter part of last year. So to me, it's to make sure that we're giving a 3 to 5x on that return to our investors. being able to say, to look back and get to those milestones, 25, 50, 100,000 hours, that is success, and continue to enjoy what I do. The day that I fall out of love with it, or I fall out with what we are doing, I won't hang on like I did in For the City just because of money. I would say there's transferable skills I've learnt, as I said, every day I've learnt, surrounded by great people. Is the team. I'd love it to be such a successful business that we can step back, both Kenny and I, and say, look what we have built with the team. And then someone gives us real backing to take it globally. That's where it is. But then it will be all the benefits of extra holiday, being more charitable, doing the things that really are important, and thinking that we've made a difference. We have made a difference. I look at the books. I was able to do a lot of reading and try to continue to read. People that take a step back and say, we made a difference. Look, I've done it for 20 years. And look, what's my legacy? My legacy is not you're worth hundreds of millions, tens of millions. It's, did you actually build something from nothing and were passionate about that route every way? And then Kenny and I to say, okay, what do we do next? What do we do with the business next? Is someone able to do it? Being in the city, I used to think I circulate money between the bank, clients, hedge funds, etc. Yes, it was good when you made money, and yes, you did get pulled aside when you lost money, but if I think about it now, that didn't excite me. No. That didn't excite me, certainly for the last 3 or 4 years whilst I was there. I was good at what I did. And then it's just a question of circumstance. You always know you're going to get the tap on the shoulder at some point. I didn't have a plan B. There wasn't a plan B. At least now I can say, okay, if this doesn't work out, or hopefully it does work out, what else can I do within healthcare? What can I do to make a difference?
You have learned so much that actually that the confidence you have to be able to pivot actually means you can really go almost all in on this, knowing that actually if it doesn't work, I'll just move to something else and take those transferable skills and be able to move into a different area.
I look, and I think more so in the States, failure is not a failure.
No.
Failure is not a failure. I will say hand on heart right now, whatever happens, we have established ourselves, we've set the market, we've created a market, we can actually do something different now. We, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone in healthcare. Sometimes if you run the same playbook for so long, you need a new perspective.
Yeah.
You need a new, fresh pair of eyes. Even now, people that join the business 4 years down the line, what is your viewpoint? What can we do better? How do we differentiate? For me, it's that iteration. So what drives me every day? Improve. And no short-term cuts, no short-term in anything.
No, it's been a consistent theme during our conversation today, that continue learning, how can we get better? So I want to finish off today, and it might link in with that, but what advice would you give to someone looking to come out of a comfortable job and start their own business? What advice would you give to them?
First off, it's lonely. It's a lonely journey. Figure out the things that you don't want to do. And I'm having those conversations with friends of mine now as they're getting, we're all in our 50s, of what do I do now? My job I thought was secure is not. Be passionate. Figure something out that you can be passionate about. Figure out, how do I make a difference? I don't just want to be a runner and rider anymore. I want to lead. Because again, I think having the ability to reinvent oneself at my age is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And to meet the most interesting people, to have the gravitas down the line to say that we've actually done something that is more meaningful than just circulating money. And don't get me wrong, the city was very good to me and I enjoyed what I did. I I thrived on competition. That's why, 400 people in COVID, that's fine. And I'm sure there'd be other people that come into our space. How do we improve? And for those people that are in it, trying to find themselves, and I do that with people, and I will reach out to anyone that finds themselves on that lonely journey. It's about confidence. It's about confidence. Your confidence has been knocked when you've been made redundant.
Yeah.
It's about
I can see that.
Back on that horse. How do I find something? I'm willing to work all the hours there are. I'm willing to make the sacrifices to make sure that not just for you, the individual, but for your family, and I've said it a number of times, about your kids. What you can instill in them is you can do something else. And I think the next generation will do multiple jobs. They won't be stuck in one industry for one period of time. You will do 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Therefore, it's okay to pivot. It's okay to change. It's okay to try things. You don't have that flexibility when you've got responsibility. But if you can find that a formula along that route, then I think that's where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant answer. I love that. No, look, thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all the best with Zoomdoc. I'm excited to see how it progresses in the healthcare industry over the coming years, and we will definitely keep in touch. So thank you very much again.
Matt, thank you to you. It's been amazing. Thank you for allowing me to tell my story. My wife will say, get it out of your system now. So
I've enjoyed it.
Lovely.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Balanced Ambition podcast. I genuinely hope the stories inspire you as much as they inspire me. If you found value in today's conversation, please share it with a friend. And remember, by subscribing, you won't miss an episode, and it would truly mean the world to me. Stay balanced, and I'll see you next time.